So what are you pretending to not know? Because sometimes, as a way to avoid, we often play games in our own minds. We often play a game of, I don't know, I have no idea, I'm not sure. The mind often has a strategy, if you've noticed, to sometimes create this fog of confusion around us. Has your mind ever done that, where you create a fog of confusion, and before you know it, you're spiraling in the mind, and you don't know what decision to make, you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do, and you're just telling everyone, I don't know, and you've just confused yourself and spun yourself into what's often called a tizzy. Have you ever done that? The game of confusion that the mind plays. The game of confusion. So what do you do when you don't know what to do? See, what if you actually didn't need to know what to do? What if you were actually able to free yourself of the illusory need to know? Because often the things you think you know, and even when you think you know, many times we don't actually know. We just thought we knew in that moment. So what if the need to know itself was a limitation? Because the mind's capacity to actually know what reality is by itself is very limited. And the level of reality that you're actually able to see and know in this moment is really limited to the level of our own evolution and consciousness in this particular moment in time right now, which will expand a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now. And I found that the deeper I go in my own process, and you'll hear many people on the spiritual path talk about it, that the deeper I go, the less I know. So what if the real freedom was actually in not knowing, in actually not knowing anything at all? What if the degree to which you could relax in the unknown was also the degree to which you would experience freedom? That your freedom is determined by how much of the unknown you can handle, you can rest in, you can be in. And perhaps the goal, even though we've been conditioned in this world of universities and academia and information age to know and get as much information, we often, it's often rooted in fear, trying to control every single element of life, time, the weather, this, that, the need to know. We're reading newspapers, going to the weather, going to the news channels. The mind is needing to know, to plan, to plot, to project, to know 17 steps ahead. But if you really think about it, in your life, if you look at your life, how much of your life has turned out exactly the way you projected and planned? How much of your life turned out exactly based on what you thought you knew? Most of our lives turn out completely opposite, much better, much more interesting, much more creative, because perhaps there's a deeper intelligence of life. So what if you didn't need to know a thing? What if you gave up the need to know and rested with the reality of I don't know? But we often think in our culture, well, if you just don't know, you're stupid, something's wrong with you, what's wrong with you, what's up with you? But what if the I don't know was the safest place to be? Because when you're so sure about what is, about who you are, about what you think is, then you create limits, blindfolds, where you're not actually necessarily truly open to anything else. Open to what's out here, open to the possibilities of life that currently you may not be able to see based on your own nervous system and conditioning and perception in this moment. What if being in not knowing was the freest place, and you just allowed your heart to lead you so that you could simply stay open to the universe? My father would often say to me, who was a very wise man, he would often say to me, Kute, did you bring yourself into this world? And I'd often say, well, Dad, no, of course I didn't bring myself into this world. And he would say, who brought you into this world? And I would say, well, I don't know, life brought me into this world. I just showed up here. And he would look at me and he would say, exactly. If you didn't bring yourself into this planet and into this existence, then some energy, some force of life brought you into this world. It's breathing you right now. It's beating your heart right now. It's functioning your entire being, and the beings of 7 billion other people and life forms are on this planet in this moment. Surely that force of life knows how to fulfill your highest destiny. Trust it. Trust life. Trust bigger than your mind. Trust bigger than what you know. Because what you know is constantly changing, and the mind is constantly changing. Ultimately, my friends, there is a dimension of your being that knows everything. It's your soul, your being. It has its own GPS. There's a dimension of your being that is beyond the form, beyond the mind, that knows everything because it is everything. And if you're willing to trust that inner wisdom, what you need to know, when you need to know it, at the time you need to know it, will be available to you in that moment. And it will guide you. Turn left, turn right, turn left, go forward. It will guide you. And yet so often in our culture, because we can't necessarily touch, taste, feel, and see it, we don't listen to it. We poo-poo it. We disown it. We don't fully value, wow, something told me not to be in a relationship with this person, and I went in a relationship with this person and it was hell, but I knew not to be in a relationship with that person, or I knew not to invest in that business opportunity, but I didn't listen. The thing isn't that we don't know. The mind may not know, the logic may not know. The thing is, we often don't listen to that knowing. Are you willing to listen to the deeper knowing of your being? Because at that level, there's an interconnectedness with all existence, and that deeper dimension of you is one with everything, and it knows. Trust that knowing. Not the mind, not the conditioning, not the constantly changing information in the world, but the deeper knowing that is inside of you. And you will be guided every step of the way exactly in perfect synchronized harmony for your own unique expression. You can follow Buddha's plan, you can follow Martin Luther King's plan, you can follow what worked for Obama, what worked for Clinton, what worked for Bill Gates, what worked for Mark Zuckerberg, what worked for Oprah. That worked for them and for their own unique soul. But your soul knows. And encoded in your being is a destiny, is a knowing. So what do you do if you don't know what to do right now? What decision should I make? Whenever you make a decision from your mind or a decision from fear, then you are only perpetuating more fear. Sometimes we don't know what to do, so we panic and we go, well, I can't just stay here, I can't just wait here, I have to do something. Yet often that doing is coming from fear of loss, fear of losing the opportunity, even though that very thing you're about to do doesn't feel right. The amount of times I've worked with clients who are about to get married, and I ask the woman, oh man, do you feel this is aligned? Well, no, not really, but they're really nice. I'm like, they're really nice, but you don't feel it's right. I don't know if it's quite right, but it's kind of like no one else has shown up. Trust your knowing. When you don't know what to do, be willing to do nothing. In that nothing, you create a space, the availability to tap in and listen. There is a part of you that knows. There's a part of you that knows. I invite you to give up this game of confusion and trust the knowing. Because when you trust that knowing, life is simple. Life is simple. We often complicate by going in all sorts of directions that we're not sure about, out of fear, out of not being aligned. But if you simply follow what feels truly aligned, you don't have to know every step of the journey. You don't have to know the entire plan. All you need to know is what is the next step. What's the next step? And take that step. And what's the next step? And take that step. And enjoy the process. Enjoy the moment. Because that moment is the only guarantee that you have. Trust your knowing. Feel your knowing. Own your knowing. When you own your knowing, yes, it is a responsibility. It's a great responsibility because you can no longer BS yourself by being a victim and saying, I don't know. It's a responsibility to step up into a higher level of your own essence, the higher level of your own expression, a higher level of your own leadership, a higher level of you owning your power. You are powerful. You know, even when you don't know a thing. So be willing to not know a thing, knowing full well that you, the real you, knows everything. Love you lots. Love now.